As an experienced user of Excel, I use keyboard shortcuts on daily basis. This is something that is not necessary to know, but it sometimes speeds up your work and sometimes it looks great and fancy when someone is looking at your work. Nevertheless, in the world of Excel formulas, it is easier to select ranges or edit formulas using keyboard shortcuts. The basic shortcut to work with formulas is F2 to edit formulas. Then you can use the arrows to move left and right in your formula. Usually you use the arrows just to jump from one cell to the other, but you can also use the arrows inside the formula bar. Then, when you would like to turn off this edit mode, you can once again hit F2 button and then you start selecting formulas, and once again when you are done, you can once again hit F2 to come back to the edit mode, and you accept the formula by hitting enter. If you are in the edit mode of the formula and you created some changes and you don't want to accept them, you can always run away by hitting escape, which means exit edit mode. In the exercise about blocking cells address, we already discovered a shortcut F4 that adds dollars to your cell address. When you hit it for the first time, you see both dollars, and then you just block the row, then just the column, and then you go back to the initial state. There are only a few Excel users that know that when entering an Excel formula, you can enter as many new lines as you wish, and you use a shortcut Alt plus Enter to create something new. You can also use spaces, and once again it doesn't influence your formula, and when you hit enter, the formula works exactly the same as it would be in one line. You rarely use it because the formula stops being transparent, but still you would probably use this when entering some text, and then inserting a new line will allow you to create a multi-line cell. If before creating a formula you would select a range and you will start writing a formula like net sales plus VAT tax, and you hit Ctrl and Enter, you can apply the formula to all of these selected cells. A key on a keyboard that you can find under Escape button in the top left corner of a keyboard is called tilde. And when you combine Ctrl and the tilde, you can go to the View Formula mode, which means instead of formula results, we can now see in the D column the formulas themselves. When you hit it once again, you go back to the normal mode. The next shortcut is actually the FX icon that you can see in here next to the formula bar, which is called insert function, and you can use it when standing on an empty cell, and then you insert a function just by looking for it. If we, for example, look for an if formula, we can hit go and once again hit enter, and then we open the function arguments in here. And this is one of the modes you can turn it on, but the second one, if you know the formula, like the if formula, and you hit tab to open the bracket and you see the arguments but you don't want to fill them in the formula bar, you can also hit Shift and F3 button to open the function arguments window. If you would like to quickly auto-sum the data that you see above, you can use Alt and equal sign to create an auto-sum, and the same formula works also horizontally and looks for the numbers that it can sum, so it omits, for example, dates in my scenario. There is a formula in Excel that is called array formula that you enter using a combination of Ctrl, Shift and Enter. You can easily recognize the array formulas since they begin and end with a curly bracket. This shortcut is not more applicable for Excel 365. When Excel users have a lot of formulas, sometimes they turn off formula calculations to save time. You can find it on the Formula tab, where you can turn on the manual calculations for Excel. What does it mean? If you will create a formula and copy it down, it won't calculate for the all existing rows, but you can ask Excel to calculate the workbook on demand by hitting F9 button. The same shortcut applies when you're in the edit mode of the formula. Sometimes you'd like to know what is the current result, and you can also use F9 shortcut to quickly get the result of your formula. But keep in mind that when you hit enter, you change the cell and remove the formula. It's not there anymore, so let's go back. And the last thing, you don't need to select all of the elements in your formula bar. You can just select part of it and hit F9 to check what is the part of the formula result. When you go out, you usually will hit escape to not to modify the initial formula. From all the other formulas, I've picked up just a few more that might be useful in my opinion. The first one is open the name manager, which is Ctrl and F3, and we saw already defined names in one of the previous exercises. Then you have some kind of formulas that are useful when filling some forms, like Ctrl and semicolon, it inserts the current date, and Ctrl Shift and semicolon, it inserts the current time. There are some shortcuts that are useful when copying data. Of course, you can use Ctrl C and Ctrl V, but you can also copy a formula or a cell content down by using Ctrl plus D, and you can copy it to the right by using Ctrl plus R. It is often useful and time-saving to select cells within Excel, to format them or to use them within the formula. And you can jump through cells by using the combination of Ctrl, Shift and arrows and some other keys on a keyboard. So just by using arrows you move from one cell to the other, but using Ctrl and arrows you jump to the beginning or the end of the current range, and you can also jump through the ranges. By analogy, you can use just the Shift button and arrows to select cells to the left, to the bottom, which will be useful for creating formula input. When you hit Home button, you always go to the beginning of the row. Even if you are in a separate range, you always go to the beginning. The End button works a bit differently. When you hit the End once, you will see that you turn on the End mode. When you hit it for the second time, you turn it off. And when you hit End mode, you just use one down arrow to jump to the end of the range, and you see that the End mode turns then on. So if you'd like to jump without the Control button to the end of the range on the right, you just hit End and the right arrow. A shortcut Ctrl and Home always brings you to the beginning of the worksheet, and the Ctrl and End doesn't bring you to the last cell of the worksheet, but to the last active cell within the last range that Excel can see. Next shortcuts are useful for selecting data, like the combination of Ctrl, Shift and arrows allows you to select the whole range down, for example, or the whole range to the right. You can also keep in mind two shortcuts to select the whole column, Ctrl and space, and to select the whole row, Shift and space. This might be very useful too. If you want to select the whole active range, you can use Ctrl and A, like all, and once you hit it once again, you select the whole worksheet. If you have a formula that relies on other cell, you can use a shortcut Ctrl and a square bracket to jump to this cell. It is useful not only in the current workbook, but it can also automatically open a workbook to which you are referring. In the last part of the training, we will also talk about data operations, and then you will find useful the following shortcuts. F5 means go to, where you can also find the go to special. Ctrl F means find, and we have in here also the replace option, so find and replace, and this is the shortcut Ctrl and H. And finally, a few formatting tricks. If you have a number in a cell, you can use the combination Ctrl Shift and integer numbers from 1 to 6 to apply the formatting. Ctrl Shift 1 is number formatting, Ctrl Shift 2 is time, Ctrl Shift 3 is date, Ctrl Shift and 4 is the currency, and Ctrl Shift and 5 is the percentage. And you can go back to the general formatting by using Ctrl Shift and tilde.